1 year ago, I set out to create my very own living Pokedex, where I have to collect one of every single species of Pokemon, and my game of choice was none other than the pinnacle of Generation 3, Pokemon Emerald. Often looked at as one of the best the series has to offer, I thought what better way to tackle a challenge like this with a game I hadn't played before, not truly realizing what I just signed myself up for. Now, even in this third generation of the series, there's still a whopping 386 Pokemon to collect. And trust me, they are not created equal. While there's enough Zigzagoon to last enough for a lifetime, Pokemon like Latios needed to be encountered in the wild and would run away after a single turn of battle, or the Starters, which is only possible to get one per playthrough. All of this got me thinking, what is the hardest to catch Pokemon in the third generation? Now, I know you saw the thumbnail, but before we get into the obvious, there's a couple of factors that go into it. Some Pokemon are straight up unobtainable today in 2026. Deoxys and Mew, for example, were only available through real-world events. If you went to Pokemon Rocks 2004 with a copy of Fire Red, Leaf Green, or Emerald, you could get the Aurora ticket, which allowed you to catch Deoxys. And if you went to Toys R Us on September 30th, 2006 between 12 and 3 p.m., you would be given a Mew. These are the only ways to legitimately obtain these Pokemon, and seeing as it's been 20 years since the events took place, I missed the boat. While technically this would make them the hardest Pokemon to obtain, I'm referring to Pokemon you can actively catch at any point in time, event or not. There are a couple of honorable or maybe dishonorable mentions. Feebas. Feebas is only available on Route 119 from fishing, which at first doesn't sound awful, but he's only available on 6 tiles, and there are hundreds of tiles to fish from, and to make matters even worse, he has a 50% encounter rate, meaning you could fish on the correct tile multiple times, and if you are very unlucky, move past it assuming it just wasn't the right one. Chansey is only available in Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green and has a 4% encounter rate, which on paper isn't a terrible encounter rate. Plenty of Pokemon have the same, if not a lower encounter rates within this generation, but what makes Chansey special is the fact you can only find it within the Safari Zone. Safari Zone encounters are harder than your average wild encounter for a couple of reasons. You can't use any Pokemon, which means you can't consistently alter this Pokemon's catch rate by lowering its HP and applying status conditions. You're reliant on using either rocks or bait, which can help bring its 4% catch rate up to around 19%, but at any point, Safari Pokemon can flee from battle. Cherry on top is the Safari Zone limits the amount of steps you can take inside before it kicks you out. All of this culminate into a really annoying Pokemon to capture. There's also countless Pokemon unavailable in Emerald. Pokemon like Zangoose, Lunatone, and Surskit need to be caught in their exclusive titles, which means you need to have a friend with a copy of one of those games, or buy it on your own, effectively paywalling these Pokemon. The most egregious paywall of them all, Jirachi, is only legitimately obtainable through a GameCube bonus disc, which today will run you anywhere from $250 to $300, but there's one Pokemon that blows all of this out of the water, not only costing a lot of money to set up, but also a lot of time to invest, and I'm talking about none other than Celebi. Introduced in Generation 2, this mythical was only available via event, similar to Deoxys and Mew. But unlike those two, there is still a way for us to obtain this mythical, but to do so, we have to look outside of the US. While the US received a bonus GameCube game with Jirachi, Japan received a bonus disc with Celebi. So all we need to do is buy the $200 bonus disc, and we're all squared away, right? Not quite. While the US bonus disc allowed any copy of Ruby, Sapphire, or Emerald to plug right in and receive the event, the Celebi requires the player to fulfill 3 conditions: a cleared copy of Pokemon Sapphire, Ruby, or Emerald, all 48 Shadow Pokemon purified on a copy of Pokémon Colosseum, and both of these have to be Japanese copies. This issue isn't as relevant as it was in the early 2000s, but GameCubes are something called a region locked, meaning a US GameCube can only play US games and vice versa for other regions. What does that mean for you? Well, we need a Japanese copy of Gen 3, which will run you from anywhere from $35 to $60 depending on the game, not terrible. A Japanese GameCube, which is anywhere from $75 to $100, ouch. And Colosseum, which is about $30 to $50. Including the bonus disc, Celebi will cost you roughly $400 to catch. We also have to play and complete these games, and although it might not look like it, I can't read Japanese. Gen 3 alone will probably take the average playthrough of 20 to 25 hours, but the real boss, Pokémon Colosseum. Released in 2003, Colosseum was the first ever home console Pokemon game with a traditional story mode. You play as Wes, an ex-grunt of an evil Pokemon org who breaks into their base, steals the snag machine, and you go through the region of Ouray and use this to steal shadow Pokemon from evil trainers. This game is extremely underrated. It's got amazing music, very memorable characters, and it puts up a ton of challenge. The main gimmick, stealing another trainer's Pokemon, was like every kid's dream. Shadow Pokemon are unique in a couple of different ways. They have access to Shadow moves, which do neutral damage to all types of Pokemon. They can enter Hyper Mode, which can increase the probability of critical hits, and they will not actively gain EXP until after they've been purified. Catching all 48 of these Shadow Pokemon is not easy in the slightest. One of the first major bosses uses a Shadow Entei that has like a 3% catch rate on the good end. And from the footage, you might have noticed that all of these are double battles, which brings a lot more depth to the trainer battles, but also means the CPU spamming Earthquake can easily kill your attempt at one of these things in the blink of an eye, meaning you have to restart the battle. You'll be catching these Shadow Pokemon up until the very end, and some of these are only available after the credits roll. While catching them all is one thing, you also have to purify them, and oh man. To purify a Shadow Pokemon, there's a couple of methods. 1. You can use them in battles, which decreases their shadow gauge by winning battles and calling them out of Hyper Mode. 2. Walking around with them in your party can gradually lower this as well. In a gate village, if you tie your analog stick down in this specific spot, Wes will jitter walk infinitely in this corner, and you can leave your game on at work or overnight to purify them. Final method, you can buy fragrances from this shop in a gate city that will lower the gauge. What method you choose to do if you want to be effective with your grinding is not up to you. The Pokemon's nature alters what method will work best for it, and you cannot see their nature until you've cleared out the first 2 portions of the heart gauge. One final thing, not all Shadow Pokemon are created equal. While some Shadow Pokemon like Makuhita take 3,000 points to purify, some Pokemon like Tyranitar take 20,000 points. All in all, after purifying every single Shadow Pokemon, I finished in about 60 hours. And after almost 100 hours between this and Sapphire, $400, you can finally collect your Celebi. Was it worth it? Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but I am more than confident in saying that this is the hardest Pokemon to catch in the 3rd generation. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked the video, please subscribe and leave a like. I wanted to do something special and unique for Pokemon Week, and I had a ton of fun making this.